Excited to see everybody again. I've seen some friendly faces already. So I'm going to share my share. Is sharing or not? Okay. Okay. Let me see. I don't know where to put it. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to talk about fashion design and social justice, and I think is great that Virgin said that the presentation, her presentation, because this is this is related to how we are reacting. So I think um, I need to introduce myself first. So I'm Nasheli Juliana Ortiz Gonzalez. Yes, 4 names. And I right now I have 2 companies. I have 22 Studio, that is a transdisciplinary studio led by women, and we create spaces for communities to do design and design their spaces. And then we also do lighting, architecture, and other multiple things. Cristiano and I, when we were in Puerto Rico, we also had a company that was called Industria Creativa, and we used to make a lot of productions for movies or advertising. So it's a continuation of that global thinking on design, and not only the fashion design part. Um, I've been working all around the world, and when I did my master's degree in Savannah College of Art and Design, I focus on politics, and these bring me to move forward with human rights, and I've been working with that from fashion design since then. But to understand that, I think it's very important to understand where I come from. And I come from, I'm doing this from Amsterdam to Puerto Rico. Um, I'm come from Puerto Rico, from a very beautiful town. I'm from the mountains in Puerto Rico. But the important thing about knowing that I'm from Puerto Rico is how that has affected my view of the world and how I relate to that world. Puerto Rico is a colony of United States, um, and we do not have the power to decide a lot of things. So politics in Puerto Rico is something that you always talk. Is a dinner talk. It's very casual. It's very normal to have those hard conversations in the table with your family. And I was very involved when I was in university in all these fights in the streets in Puerto Rico. So fashion and politics is the perfect combination for me, for what I believe and how I can contribute um, with the thing that I love. I am very passionate about fashion. So to understand why we dress, we need to discuss a lot of stuff. We need to talk about semiotics. We need to talk about culture. But in this aspect, I think we need to understand that modesty, religion, gender, and social status has been um, a big component on how we dress and why we dress. We dress to protect our bodies. We dress to differentiate the sex, and but those all those conceptions are getting blurrier, and I think that is the reason that fashion is changing and we are progressing, um, and that is why the design education is so important. It need to be that psychology, that anthropological study in everything that a fashion designers do, because we are on service to a human being that we need to fully understand. So I'm going to put here a video that I think everybody knows?
No, and I've seen all this before.
Tuscans is trying to reinvent their drugway, so actually
Where are all the other dresses?
we have some right here, and then Anani. I think it can be very interesting.
No. No, it's just baffling to me. Why is it so impossible to put together a decent run through? You people have had hours and hours to prepare. It's just so confusing to me. Where are the advertisements?
We have some pieces from Banana Republic.
Well, we need more, don't we? Oh, Smith, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, you know me. Give me a full ballerina skirt and a hint of saloon, and I'm on board.
But do you think it's too much like...
Like a Lacroix from July? I thought that, but no, not with the right accessories. It should work.
Where are the belts for this dress? Why is no one ready?
It's a tough call. They're so different.
Something funny?
No, nothing's, it's just that both those belts look exactly the same to me. I'm still learning about this stuff and,
This stuff? Oh, okay. I see. You think this has nothing to do with you. You go to your closet and you select, I don't know, that lumpy blue sweater, for instance, because you're trying to tell the world that you take yourself too seriously to care about what you put on your back. But what you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue. It's not turquoise. It's not lapis. It's actually cerulean. You're also blindly unaware of the fact that in 2002, Oscar de la Renta did a collection of cerulean gowns. And then I think it was Yves Saint Laurent, wasn't it? Showed cerulean military jackets. I think we need a jacket here. And then cerulean quickly showed up in the collections of 8 different designers. And it filtered down through the department stores and then trickled on down into some tragic casual corner where you no doubt fished it out of some clearance bin. However, that blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
This is an amazing way of expressing. I don't know how it happened in Europe, but in Puerto Rico, nobody understood what a fashion designer was. So they always thought I was a seamstress, and that's it. And this part that is everything that we do, everything have a meaning, and it's going to have a very important part on the conversation that you have in your presence. Because we don't have access to press, to a billboard, we don't have access to maybe TV, but we have our own bodies to deliver a message. And that is one of the most immediate and logic political tools. And you can do a statement even when you say, I don't want to do anything fashion, I'm not fashionable. Oh, that is a political statement. So context, fashion is born by small facts, trends, or even politics, never by trying to make little pleats or furbelows, by trinkets, by clothes easy to copy, or by the shortening of the lengthening of a skirt. So I'm going to go very overview of moments that fashion has contributed for different causes. I don't know where this is going. So the bloomers in 1850, we saw, Dios mío, esto sigue. Wait a moment, sorry. I think I fixed it. Okay, so the bloomers in 1850, no, I didn't fix it, sorry. Okay, continue. Sorry. The bloomers dress in the 1850 was the first attempt of women to start using pants. I don't know why this is doing this.
I don't know. Suddenly something happened. Try to exit the full view, maybe, and to enter again. And let's see what's happening because it's strange. It didn't happen until now.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Try to go again with the full view.
Wait, maybe it's because I'm selecting slideshow. So let's
Go to view full something.
enter full screen.
Yes. Try like this.
This is what it's doing. So can you see it?
Yes, but not full screen in this moment. But it's okay. If you cannot go full screen, it's better like this so you can manage the presentation.
Okay. Let me open it as big as I can. Okay. So this was the first attempt to use pants for women, and she just wanted to ride a bicycle. But yeah, they shut it down. But in the trousers pants in the 20th century, in 1915, the Puerto Rican Luisa Capetillo went to Cuba and put trousers on, and this was a huge outrage. And after that, in the middle of the World War II, women needed to save money, so they didn't were able to wear clothes like they used. So they started using their husbands' garments because they were deployed, and also women were working in those jobs that everybody was in the war. In the 1940s, we start seeing a more passionate and civil rights movement for Black beauty. And we started seeing more women using their natural hair, and this was a huge back. A lot of people were saying that that was being not clean enough. Was an awful experience for the women, but African American women have embraced the Afro style, and they use it as a Black pride. And one of the first women to use the natural hair in the civil war movement was Marie O'Neill, and her boyfriend Stokely Carmichael, he was a prominent man from the Black Panther Party, so that was related, and he was the one who created the say Black is beautiful, and it was a slogan used constantly to empower the Black community in the United States. So Blackness is very commodifiable. Black culture production is so useful to focus just not on Black people, or we create by Black people. You see it in high fashion, you see it in music, you can see the tribal movement that happened in fashion, the ethnic patterns, yet the runways still look how they have always looked in terms of race and body. And this is one thing in 2019, it was the first time, at least in New York Fashion Week, that each show have at least one person of color modeling. And we're going to talk a little about how politics is getting into fashion and how we are trying to force to don't be a trend. This is not a trend, and we need to be very careful because a lot of companies get a lot of attention from these movements, and then they don't want to really serve those communities or to really have the appreciation instead of appropriation. And we have a long list. In 1946, the woman body was liberated with the bikini. And this was in France, and it was a huge problem. They said, for women wearing a bikini, kind of a second liberation. There was really nothing sexual about this. It was instead a celebration of freedom and a return to the joys in life. I imagine that going to the beach with a full gown is not funny. Having many layers of sand everywhere is not funny. That's it. So kente cloth in 1958. It was the first Ghanaian president, Kwame Nkrumah, and he visited United States. And when he was in his visit in Washington D.C., he went dressing with his traditional garment, the kente cloth. And these moments were in this transition in United States. It was only 3 years that it was liberated, the last slaves and the separation. So it was a lot of who we are in the African American community, what are we going to do, and how we're going to do it. And this person that looks like me, that come from where I come from, is using this kind of garment that I do not understand what it is. So the community started to study the textiles from Africa, and they started to discover and create this new narrative of what it is African American. In 1961, we already have the beach, and we conquered the beach with our bodies and with the ownership of our bodies. And in 61, we are taking the street with our legs. We want to show our legs, and the miniskirt comes. This is one piece that I think everybody have somewhere. And we're still fighting if it was Marie Quant or André Koresh in 61 that we don't know who did it, but it was just something refresh in that was happening. And then in 64, just 4 years after the kente cloth come to the United States, Muhammad Ali used it in his fight, and everybody in United States started using those fabrics. Yves Saint Laurent in 1966, putting and smoking in a woman. It was very shocking, a pantsuit. And now it's a classic for men and women, but at that moment it was only for male. So this was and still are a piece that a lot of women use to empower them when they are in fields that is highly dominated by white male. So women use these to empower them. And we saw also these later in the 80s when women started working more in the office, and we see the shoulders going broader. And it's because men have big shoulders, I'm going to have big shoulders. If they think that is what is going to give me intelligence, I'm going to do it. So in 1966, we see the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers, they were founded because they were tired of police brutality. They were tired of not having access, not same age range, and they created a uniform. Huey Newton and Seeley, that they are the founders of the Black Panther Party, and they developed a uniform of a powder blue shirt, black leather jacket, black pants, black shoes, black beret, and an optional black gloves. And the black beret, they said that it was they took that inspiration from the French resistance to the Nazis in the World War II. So they were appropriating something and using it to empower and to take their message to the next level. Other groups in United States that were using uniforms in the same time and fighting for the same rights in the different areas. It was the Brown Berets. This is a group of Chicanos, and they wanted exactly the same for Latinos coming from South America and Mexico. They just wanted to have access to job and equal rights. And the last group that was in the 60s, coming out and having apparel codes were the African American, the American Indian movement, sorry. And they also use the Bennett as a one thing. Even though they were different groups, we have the Native Americans, the African Americans, and the Latino. They were all wanting the same for their communities, and they used the beret as one of the common accessory. But in 1968, we took away our bras and we decided, no, this is too hard. My boobs move. They need to move. They need to be free. And it bothers you, look to the other side. So I think the bra revolution was a big thing in some areas, California, Chicago. And before the bras were very hard, very harsh, very pointy. It was not ergonomic with the bust. So that is why women say, no, I'm not going to use it. In 72 to 73, I put this one here and I was laughing because Miss Diane von Fostenberg said that if she needed to do business and she needed to be sexy to be a woman, she needed to be a mom, she needed something easy to put. She don't have time for zippers. And her design, the wrap dress, is in jersey. She don't need to iron it. And is associated until this day as this effortless, casual, but sexy word to play versatility. So that means that you can go to work and after you can go to get cocktails. And that was the lifestyle that she wanted to portray. So the Skinhead is another group in the 80s that had some apparel code. And the Skinheads, as all the other groups, have different waves. In here, I'm talking specifically the 80s wave. And this was more in London and United Kingdom. And they used Dr. Martens or steel-toe work boots, braces, high waist, and beret length of straight length jeans, and button-down collared shirts, usually very slim fitted, with checks or plain. And this was very interesting because it was something else, and many people saw this as racist, but really they were fighting for for the workers, and they wanted to have the same rights. So this was the first way of skinheads. The teachers, I think this is the best and easiest way to take a message. Teachers is the everyday billboard that we use, and it's just fun. But this was one of the first ones to go down the wrong way. And this was Catherine Hammett, and she did a collection in the 80s that said with peace, worldwide nuclear ban now, choose life, protest and survive, and others. But we can see similar in around the prehistory. For example, in sorry, I got lost. Vivian Westwood, she put "I'm not a terrorist" because in 2015, 2005, sorry, they proposed the ban for some after the terrorist attack. So, and Vivian Westwood has a long time of being an activist in fashion, from the punk rock to these days. She's still making a lot of statements. And then this is the designer Ashish Gupta, and he's using an immigrant T-shirt because they were protesting the anti-Brexit. Since the Brexit have some connotations that they didn't want immigrants, and that was one of the reasons that they wanted to be approved. And then the last one is one of the most famous, and maybe it's the one that you haven't heard, but at least in the impact that created, this was very important in 1984. And it was the West Germany and America controversy about deployment of the Pershing second missile. So she wanted to do an anti-war statement, and here we can see Thatcher using a 50A1 perish, don't want to perish, meaning that people do not want to die. And here's our more, I know, more our era garments that we know that they did history. The prime rib America, Lady Gaga used for the PMA awards. And PETA, of course, started screaming, and they were furious with PETA. This was in 2010, and the MTV Awards, sorry. And she after explained that it was in support of the LGBTQ, about the don't ask, don't tell in the US military. And she said, the prime bribe of America. Lady Gaga said, the greatest cut of meat my country has to offer. So that is why she wore this dress. The Hoodie, in 2012, we lost Trayvon Martin, 17 years old, and he was killed by George Zimmerman. And the Hoodie, after Zimmerman was not found not guilty. All over social media, people took pictures with their hoodies because the excuse was that the hoodie, the guy didn't know that this was a kid. So everybody was taking photos with their hoodies in turn to protest the sentence. And the hoodie became a symbol of tragedy, but also a unifying causes. The same happened in 2014 with I Can't Breathe, and with Derrick Rose, a police was choking him and he died, and Derrick kept saying I can't breathe, and it didn't. He died, and that the same happened 2 days ago. So some NBA players use the I Can't Breathe T-shirts. And this was a very interesting. The rapper Outkast, he did a world tour, and in each of his concerts, he wore a different suit, and all of them have different messages. After that, he put an exhibition together, and they put it in the Savannah College of Art and Design Museum. In the BMAs in 2015, we can see these two amazing women saying, I'm tired of if I have sexuality, if I am sexy, you're going to say that I'm a whore, that I'm a bitch. So they are wearing all those clothes, all those words that people refer to them, and appropriating and changing the meaning, wearing them, and taking ownership of them. The Super Bowl in 2016, a clear vision of the Black Panthers movement in the United States. This was highly a big problem, from that it was sexy, that it was power. A lot of people thought that they wanted to be in charge instead of just be able to live. And the pussy hats, after the United States Trump president said that he can grab by the pussy some woman, they created this hat in symbol of resistance, and this was the Women March in 2017. And since then, in every Women March, you see a lot of the pink hats. And Missoni used this in his 2017 runway. And we also have the bandanas. In 2017, we saw different designers using the bandanas to express that we all want peace, that we all have the solidarity, and that everybody need to have the same opportunities. And here we can see the black berets in Dior, and we just saw a little of the history of the berets. Also, in the Golden Globes blackout in 2018, all women, everybody wore black, supporting that we wanted more representation and we wanted more directors, black women directors on movies, and also the Me Too movement. This is a movement that talks about how we have been harassed sexually and in other ways in different environments. Women in, and here we have the men. The black catsuit that Serena Williams used in 2018 was a huge a huge problem. She was banned from that competition because she was wearing these, and they think that she was bringing a political message, saying that it was inspired on the Black Power movement. And then here we have Billie Potter in the Oscars, and this was fabulous. And this talked to us about what is masculinity, what that even mean, what is the gender, who need to wear pants and who need to wear skirts. We just have bodies and we need to cover them for specific reasons, but gender is breaking out and fading out. So this was a big statement. And then we have the Mawalola Agunlesi. He's a Nigerian designer, and he created this dress in white leather for Naomi Campbell and have a bullet. And he said, I make clothes that challenge people's mind. This gown is from my collection coming from blood, delving into the horrific feeling of falling in love and the inequality of me as a Black person living in a white society. It screamed my life experiences as a Black person. And then a little view about fashion in politics. We have seen Jackie Kennedy as a great icon of fashion. We saw how a lot of designers refused to dress Melania Trump when she started her term. But here, I found this in the New York Times about this dress that Michelle Obama used in the final state dinner. And they said, the dress, after all, was made of rose gold, chain mail. As much as it was graceful, cut, and draped, it also spoke of armor and female strength, of the need to grit yourself to fight for what you believe in. We saw Hillary Clinton in the Democratic nomination for president acceptance speech and in the Trump inauguration. And this was a very well thought about these, the suffragettes, women all dressed in white, asking for the same rights. And we saw in the state message, country message, that all Democrats women dressed in white to say we don't have the same rights, and President Trump is not addressing it. It was a silent protest that made a huge impact. And now I'm going to talk a little about my work. So after living my life in many protests and fighting, I come to live in the country that have colonized my country. So it was a very stressful move. But when I got to St. Louis, Missouri, I don't know if you heard, but it was a huge movement because the police killed a Black male, Michael Brown, and he was unarmed. And I moved to this area where everything was happening, and riots exploded. And as an activist, I wanted to see how I was able to help. So I started doing food and helping with some nuns. And This group of nuns are activist nuns. They are the Loreto nuns, and they are in St. Louis, Missouri. And one of the ladies, she was 83 years old, and I asked her, why, if you have such an advanced mentality, why you decided to be a nun? And she told me, well, in my time, you needed to follow God or follow a man, and I prefer to follow instruction from God than follow instruction from a man. And that was so beautiful that I decided to study their garment. So I created Suora, and Suora is a collection of 12 pieces, like the 12 apostles. And I study the different ways that they change their garments, because even this group of nuns, when the bishop send them the uniform, they say, no, we don't going to use a uniform that you design. We're going to design it because we're going to wear it. So I imagine these nuns telling the bishop this, and it was shocking that this happened. In my shows, I always try to activate different areas. And I decided to do this video with them, about them having fun, because we see this uniform as something that is untouchable, and that they are different, that they are something else. So that is why we created this video. And then for the fashion show, that was in a big screen in the back, and all the models coming down the runway. So for this one, the religious costume have meanings. Everything have a meaning. So even the pieces, all when you make math on the pieces for this collection, they are all in threes, because that represent the Trinity. And you can see that it's a little belly out. And I wanted to show the motherhood. And they didn't like that part when they saw the collection. They said, oh, they are so naked. But I explained them what I wanted to represent with this belly out. And they agree that they are mothers of a community from a different place, but that is the real job. This collection was presented in United States in different venues, and then on London Fashion Week, and then after that we have it in a museum in Chicago right now. So you can see these three pieces is 1, 2, 3 represented the Trinity, and then I created the last one that this was the Mother Superior. For Stranded, this was a collection that I created 2 years ago. My collections normally are very black and white, grays, and I think it was because I was working and perfecting more the silhouettes of my garments. I was worried about what was outside and technique. And now when I did this collection, I feel more prepared to add color. And I wanted to do a collection inspired in 8 atrocities that the United States committed against Puerto Ricans. There are so many more, but I selected 8 that that make sense for me. And I always, another thing is, I always, when I do collections, maybe it's because I'm a teacher and I always want to teach, so people learn from everything. I always do these um, booklets explaining the concept of the collection. I just don't want to be one of the designers that do pretty things. I want to be an intelligent designer. So this stranded, for example, this detail here, the 2,975, that was the number of people that died after the Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, because the responsibility of the government. And the shoes are the shoes of a friend that died. His dad died, and I created these, and then a lot of people put shoes in the front of the Capitol to represent the people that died. So that is where this image comes from. And this is a booklet that I gave to everybody on the show, explaining each one of the atrocities. And this is my lineup. So this is the peel, and I'm going to explain you each one of them. This is the Albizus Campo, this is the diaspora, this is the carpetas, the invasion, Vieques, medical trials, and then this was Maria, the representing of the Hurricane Maria. So these garments are made, I created all the prints, and then you need to use 3D glasses to see the atrocities. The way that I was thinking is I want to do something that is beautiful, because everybody think in Puerto Rico and think, oh, the beach is so beautiful, it's so amazing. So you see the garments and you see something pretty. But once you change your glasses, you put the other people's glasses, you can see their atrocities. And it's this exercise of putting yourself in another person's position to understand their history and where they are coming from. So the first look here is the invasion. And you can see when the United States took over the island. This one is Albizus Campo. Albizus Campo was one of the biggest influence on the independence of Puerto Rico. He wanted the independence of Puerto Rico. United States tortured him and did radiation on him. He was a graduate, the first Black male graduate from Harvard with a law degree. Here we have the carpetas. In Puerto Rico, the independence movement was prohibited by the United States. Having the flag from Puerto Rico was prohibited. You needed to go to jail if you have a flag of Puerto Rico. And then they created these binders with all the information of people that they thought that were independentist. And here in this pants, you can see all that. And I put the chiffon on top because everything, all this was hidden. And a lot of people that were independentists got mentally ill because it was too much, thinking that somebody was watching you all the time. And then I created some plexiglass machetes. Machetes is a well-known artifact in independentist fights. So these are plexiglass cut in the form of machetes. Here is the pill. The pill in Puerto Rico, the pill that we use to don't have babies if we don't want to, was tried in Puerto Rico without the permission of the Puerto Rican woman. So you were going to the dentist give to take up a teeth, and then you cannot have babies. So they were doing the operation, and they were giving you pills, and you didn't know that it was to don't have kids. And this doctor wanted to control the population of Puerto Ricans because he thought that we were savage. And in this piece, you can see on the sleeves, these are uterus, little uterus in plexiglass, coated in plexiglass. So here you can see the medical trials. In Puerto Rico, they tried the orange gas and other, they did a lot of medical trials in Puerto Rico. And you can see that this is the only garment that is asymmetric. And the reason for that is because the experiments created mutations in the physics, in the looks of the people. So we saw a lot of disabilities and from that generation, and that is why this is the only garment that is asymmetric. Vieques. So when United States took position in Puerto Rico, we have two little islands with the best beaches in the world, beautiful beaches, and one of them, Culebra, was the Marina started doing practice with live ammunition, and people start getting sick with cancer because the two islands were occupied by civilians, and they left Culebra and went to Vieques, that is a bigger island, and they were doing the same. And because miscalculations, they killed some people with a missile, and a lot of people protest in Puerto Rico and do disobedience. So to take them out of the island. They left from the island in 2001, but they haven't cleaned the areas still. After that, we have Promesa, this one here. And Promesa, Obama, the last thing that he did for Puerto Rico was to sign this law, Promesa law, and we don't have any power in our money, in our any power decision in our financials. We have outside an outside group that decide all that for us. And as a result of that, a lot of us, the young professionals, needed to leave the island because, for example, they wanted to pay to anybody that was 24 years old or less, they needed to pay $4.25 an hour. So it was impossible to live with that salary. So we left, and we used the black flag of Puerto Rico as a symbol of resistance. And you can see that here we have some, I tried to do shoulders broad, like she's almost flying. So she's leaving the country. And then the last one is the Maria. Maria was a hurricane, category 4. It destroyed the island and killed a lot of people. So if you can see here in the bottom, these are shoes. I cut it plexiglass, cut it 3,000 shoes to represent each one of the life that we lost because Hurricane Maria. and it's a black dress because we're mourning them. And then the machete as a part of Puerto Rico culture. And then this is our traditional hat representing the Jíbaro, that is the person from the mountain, is still fighting, and we are carrying our deaths, but we are ready for the next steps. And here I give you a little zoom of those garments. So of course you cannot see fully the effect, but putting the three-dimensional glasses, seeing these, it's a whole experience. So trying to think about how the viewer is going to interact with your piece is very important in fashion design, and what are the reactions that they're going to do through that process. And for me I'm just using my privilege as a fashion designer in a runway space that I know is completely frivolous, and putting realities in front of the people that have the power, the money power, because we're in a capitalist society, so we need that money power to make real change. And then this one is the one for the peel. You can see the doctor doing this is the doctor for that created the experiments in Puerto Rican women. And you can see here a doctor attending a woman. This is her leg. So you can see this fabric is the fabric that I translate here. That drapey fabric of them doing the operations without the knowledge of the woman. And my last collection, and this collection I presented in Paris Fashion Week and in New York Fashion Week. My last collection, I wanted to do something more ready to wear. And I created appropriation. And we can talk years about appropriation, but I took the gold rush era, and this collection is all recycled. So I asked friends, families, and some companies to send me all their samples. We asked for 300 samples, and then that goes to the trash. So I asked them for those pants and pieces, and I underdid them, break them, and created new garments. So this collection was very challenging because I do not like to do ready to wear. I like to do more experimental stuff. I have a lot more fun. And also the challenge of the materials and the challenge of making them from something that is exists already, and making it look good and have a great fit. All that process took a lot of time, and it was very difficult. But I need to say that I sold more than other days. And I wanted to finish with the white because denim is just cotton white, and how we finish with something with the minimum, and that is the white. So, and here you can see me using the element of the t-shirt to take a message out there. And I know everybody always want to ask me about Netflix show. And I think it's relevant for this. I know maybe you have seen these, but in this article in GQ, I can send you the link, but I would like you to read it, and not read it thinking of me, but read it check the context. And there are some things that are very important. For example, He lingers while she saw, implying that his talents, like those in many contemporary streetwear designers, are found somewhere afield of the needle and thread. And this is a critique that we I know all professors give to all the design students. Knowing how to sew, knowing how to do patterns is essential to you so you can be a great designer, and successful and have respect. This is a business of connections. So it's very important that people respect you and knows that they can count on you. So knowing how to sew, do pattern making, draping, and all the boring stuff that a lot of people think that they are boring is super important. And then this is the last part that I wanted to say, because they say like I said that I cry, la la la, and I say that I have 3 jobs, and this is very very and it sucked to go home. But Isaac, he say, if we go home today, it's just another day. And she ended up the note saying how many times how you follow this narrative around a designer. A human interest story hooks our attention. We take in a story of struggle under the guise of an industry shift, and then this angle is strangely milked until it borders on insincere. Then, when the designer is no longer new, we move on to the next. And at the end of the day, the streetwear king brings down the woman who can actually make the stuff and the people who know someone, even if it's just a friend from school or a former college, no more successful than they, move ahead. So thank you for listening.